Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Hope and Direction Micro Summit here in Empower Network TV. Very excited to be hosting this event today. Whether there's sunshine outside, I hope there's sunshine in your heart today. You're in for a real treat. So the four people you see before you, the participants, we're going to be discussing what that looks like for them in their lives, the secrets to it, any shortcuts they can tell us, but also what it looks like to be in ever pursuit of hope and direction on this journey we call life. So first of all, let's welcome everybody. Megan, thank you for joining us this morning. Paul, thanks for being here. Gabi, thank you for being here. Bessie, thanks for being here. Let's let you guys introduce yourself for a minute so people know who are these fantastic people talking to me, and then we'll jump into it. Megan, can you please go first?
I'd love to. Thank you. Yes, I am Megan Aro. Lots of extra letters in my last name, but Aro, and I'm a nutritional therapy practitioner. I also got into the wellness field as a massage therapist, mostly with animals. So we talked about that some in my interview, but I love now especially helping people with their metabolic health with nutritional therapy.
Yes, I remember from horses to humans, your migration from horses to humans. That's super adorable.
And it's not a total migration because I'm still totally with the horses. It's an addition.
Yes, as we can see behind you, your heart is with the horses still. Very much so. Thank you for being here, Megan. This is a real treat to have you. Paul, please, go next. Who are you? What are you all about?
Yes, I'm Paul Kellogg. I am from Des Moines, Iowa. My career has been involved in spiritual consultation, spiritual education, not all things relationships or things that are close to my wife and my hearts. We have generational involvement in this kind of work. So it's just really beautiful to be able to help people to unfold and find the empowerment of themselves inside of all the relationships. So that's what's floating my boat lately.
I love it, floating your boat. All right, and we're going to float the viewers' boats today too, Paul. So thanks for being here. Gabi, please, Gabi, would you go next? And
absolutely. Who are you? My name is Gabi Garland. Originally from just outside of Albuquerque, New Mexico, which for people that are listening, that is the United States, because I get that question a lot of times when I say where I'm from. I live in the Richmond, Virginia area now. I have an agency that I've had now going on 4 years. It is twofold. So I do transformational retreats for women. So I'm Reiki, NLP, and hypnosis certified. And then I also have a podcast production company, which is twofold as well. So we do podcast rebrands and relaunches, but we also take you from, I think I want to start a podcast, but I have no idea what to name it, what I want the cover to look like. And we take you from that concept all the way through the launch with my incredible team. So that's me.
Gabi, thanks for being here. And thanks for interviewing me last week on your podcast. That was super fun.
So fun. It goes live next week. I need to get your picture because I didn't get that last week like I was supposed to. So
maybe I'll just screenshot. I'll do a really awkward face right now and you can just take the notes. I'm just kidding. Thanks for being here, Gabi. It's a real joy to have you too. Bessie, please. Who are you, Bessie? And that delicious, well, actually, I shouldn't say anything else. Who are you, Bessie?
Hi, everyone. I'm Bessie Estonoktok, and yes, there's a lot of letters to that name, but just put knock and talk at the end and put Esto in front. Estonoktok, that's how you pronounce it. Everybody gets fumbled over that. I'm a spiritual hypnotherapist, and I love that I'm with you all today. So I help women embrace their fears and turn them into their superpowers. And, you know, I think it's so important to understand that we have the yin and yang in us, the positive and negative, and then being able to find that balance and learn how to be able to move through that balance with courage, with determination, with empowerment, so that you can live your life, do your work with just with ease and flow and peace. And so I love using spiritual hypnotherapy to help others learn how to dig deep, to learn how to be able to go, okay, what are those blocks that I'm feeling right now? And I just want to be able to just face them and move forward and know that life is not perfect. We're imperfectly perfect. And that when we can turn those fears, those shadows into superpowers, then it's like, breathe, come back into the moment and say, okay, here I am. What do I do next with courage and determination?
Thank you for being here, Bessie. And I want some of that courage and determination with what's going on in my life right now. So I'm excited for what you're going to talk about. So let's go to Megan. Megan, when I first said, can you be a part of this hope and direction thing? What went through your mind when you heard hope and direction? What does that mean to you?
Oh, it means, yeah, it means moving forward. It means, to me, it also means something I think about sometimes for myself and talk about with clients is that kind of up energy, I call it, that feeling. There's a certain kind of up energy that's not grounded and that's scattered and that's not so fun. But there's that other up energy that's just lifting, and your heart is opening and it feels right to step into something. And that's, I think, what went through my mind when I saw that post.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. Paul, you're the reason I named it Hope and Direction. So do you want to just talk about what you shared with me and obviously why hope and direction matters to your heart?
Sure. We recently got done with a retreat at one of our conference centers in Iowa. And when I asked one of the facilitators, one of my colleagues, what his sense of what the people would come out of that retreat from, he said hope and direction. We talked about that quite a bit because the thing that I've noticed, Amos, out in society today and with clients, and Bessie referenced it just a little bit, is there is a great need for people to have a safe space where they can feel like that they can prosper, even if it's just within, because there's so much pressure and so much energy and so much entanglement of outer motivations, of outer influences. Everybody's trying to sell something to everybody. Right? We're trying to sell ideas. We're trying to do this, trying to do that. I can get lost in that. And so the hope and direction had to do with stepping back and for me coming back to myself and what is it that I need? What is it that I want? What is it that I'm inspired by? And that's where the hope starts. That's where the direction starts. It was interesting this morning, Amos. I was listening to your intermission in your workout, and you're talking about feeling unfulfilled, and embracing that feeling of unfulfilled. And I got to thinking about that because one of my techniques is to go through my day. What was fulfilling about my day? Even if it's just I had a great lunch break. The rest of the day was crap, but the lunch break was great. So what is fulfilling? And as I was listening to you, I started thinking, every day it doesn't make any difference. I have some kind of success. At a minimum, I'm breathing. That's successful. So if I can pinpoint a little bit of that success in my day, just one thing, and what did I learn from that? What could I do differently maybe next time? But that gives me hope. That gives me a sense that, I did it. Well, now I can try it again. Now I can do it. Well, I'll take the next step. Now I'll take the next step. And then that direction, which I'm sure we're going to dive into more, has to do, okay, now that I'm going to take that next step, which way do I want to point my foot? What do I want to be involved in that's going to foster that feeling of taking a deep breath a little bit more deeply next time?
Thank you, Paul, for sharing. Okay, so Gabi, let's go to you because hope and direction, like you've walked through some fire. So what do you have to say about all this?
I think when it comes to hope and direction, and we'll just take hope, at least for the start, I think when you look at the world and you look at kind of the last 4 to 5 years of everything that's happened, from a global pandemic to racial things to just all of the pieces that the world is kind of going through at the moment, I think it does give us at times a sense of hopelessness. Like if you're raising children, it's tough and you think like, what kind of world am I bringing my babies into? And I have a daughter who's a police officer. So she's literally out there doing all of the things in those environments. And I think when you think about hope and you think about direction, I think for me, hope is really leaning into your intuition. I think we always look from at an exterior standpoint to see what can I find, what can I look for. But so often what happens, I feel like, is, and I know this happened to me, I stopped being the ability to trust myself. I stopped because of all the things I had been through. I had kind of tabled my intuition. I kind of silenced that piece of myself that was like, oh, I know the answer to that, or I know that's not a good idea. And I made those bad decisions anyway. And I think once you start shedding some of those pieces and you start moving forward, that hope starts to come back, because one, you're trusting yourself. Two, you're trusting your intuition, and you're putting yourself in safer, more fruitful environments instead of the places that you know you probably shouldn't be. And so I think for me, that's a big piece of hope. And I do think, like Paul said, finding things in every single day that are joy-filled. For those of you that don't know, I have a little boy who has a heart condition. And so every day for us is a blessing. Like, he's not really talking. And so every morning, like, oh my gosh, he came when I called him today. Like, we're like cheer squad. Like, I think he was that moment for me, that shift in my life, that changed everything, to learn a couple of things. One, that we literally celebrate everything that we do. And two, that love is in action, because he doesn't have the vocabulary for it. He doesn't have the words. And so that energy and that intuition and that action is always so much more important than the things that we say. And obviously we want them to match, but sometimes it's those energy pieces. And I think hope ties into that.
Gabby's referring to her little boy Squish. He is absolutely adorable. If you've ever seen pictures of him.
Oh my gosh. He's the whole vibe.
He is. Thanks for being here, Gabby. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bessie, we're going to go to, where do you get your hope from, Bessie? Where does it, is it manufactured? Like, where do you mine it from?
You know, it's a little bit about what Paul and I think all of you, Megan and Gabi, it's really tuning into, rather than looking outside for your answers, it's going within. So for myself, it's really important to just clear out all the distractions, take some breaths, and just come back to what's important to me. So in the morning, what I do is I create an intention. So I create an intention for the morning, in the morning, so that I can track that during the day for myself, you know. And so, for example, today, my intention today is to really come from a place of love and from heart, and to really trust what comes, what downloads I receive. But I have to make sure that I don't have any fuzzies inside of me, I guess you would say. So before I came on, I sat for 5 minutes. I took some deep breaths. I grounded with Mother Earth. I connected with the divine, and just said, let me be an instrument of peace. So I just tune into my energy and really move that energy through with courage. Because I have to say, doing this today was like, really? But this is one of the things that's important for me to do. And I think, and it's coming from a place within me, that what I have to share is important to share from my heart, from my soul. And how are people gonna know who I am about what I do? I can't hide and shrink. I have to come out and be open and know that everybody has a gift to share. Everybody here, everybody in the Empower Network does. And so it's learning how to be able to just hone in on that and know that, you know, and not get all the distractions in the way. So it's manufactured energetically within me. So it's my intention that I create with my energy.
Thank you, Bessie. Okay, let's dig a bit deeper into hope before we go on to direction. So I'm going to point this at me for a sec. So I've really struggled this last week because I've had a goal of what something should look like. And I was really faced with, it didn't show up how I was wanting it to look. So Megan, I want to go to you and I want to ask, how have you found hope on the battlefield? Because after interviewing you, I know you've been through some battlefields. So what did that look like, your process of when you're like, dear God, there's explosions going on. I didn't sign up for this. I signed up for something else. What did that look like for you? Because I want to selfishly go and pick your brain and go, okay, help me out. Because other people are going to be feeling right now like they need some hope. So what are some secrets?
Yeah, for me, let's see. There are a couple things I do because in a lot of aspects of life, things can definitely not show up for us the way we want. Thinking about, my focus professionally now of metabolic health, that can definitely get very daunting for personally. Like if I get, blood work back and it's like, that's, I've been doing everything right. Why is this not going well? And let alone when I think about like the state of the metabolic health of the world and the direction it's going, it can be overwhelming and really hard to find hope. But I think for me, two things that I really use pretty consistently that does help me find hope is one is, I love the stuff that Bessie's saying, and I do use some of those tactics myself. It's very important to tune in, as the first thing I was saying. But I also love connecting with community because I find the more I can connect with other people individually or with a group like this one, for example, that just keeps me going. It feeds me. And very closely related to that is the other thing I was going to say is learning, just seeking more learning. And so often that involves community. Sometimes, of course, it's from a book or something, or tuning in to yourself to learn from yourself too, but just any form of learning and then a community, I think, are the two things that really feed my sense of hope.
Thank you, Megan, for that. Paul, I want to ask you, because you've been speaking, doing like, I don't know, seminar type stuff, workshop stuff. You are constantly dealing with people that are looking for hope. How are you personally yourself, or how do you help them transition to seeing life differently so there is hope? Like, what do you teach them?
That good way to approach that, Amos. The first thing that comes to me is I have to do a reality check of where I am. And so if I've been in a situation of despair or the emotions that are attached to that, what are the facts actually about that? So my father passed on when I was 16, and we had just moved from Maryland to Indiana, and I had no friends. I went from a school of 800 kids from 7th through 12th grade to 3,000 kids, 10 through 12. I just felt like a small fish in a giant pond. And here my father passes on. He was kind of the linchpin for that move. So we were shocked. It was sudden. He was 50 years old. And all I can remember was sitting down with my mother, and we just talked factually about what the situation was. We had a house. We still had the cars. My brothers and sisters were safe and secure. I'm the oldest, so she came to talk to me, and we just sat with the reality of this is where we are. Things have changed, things have shifted, but the facts are is that we still have things to eat. We still have, money to go buy more groceries and things like that. And so that was at 16 years old, not even thinking about any of the things we're talking about. That was settling for me. It helped me to calm and relax and say, yes, something's different, but here are some things that are the same. So the releasing of that fear that things are going to continue to be bad, things that everybody's going to now die, that didn't happen. So it helped me to look clearly at myself and what is the next step. And then that was the next thing. My mother started saying, okay, here's what we need to do now. So there's a real sense of getting detached just a little bit from what's taking place, sitting with it. Yes, okay, this happened. I do feel this way, but now that I acknowledge that and I accept that, okay, here's what I need to be able to do next. And then to Bessie's point, it's amazing when I just start accepting that this is where I am, how suddenly answers start to show up because I've settled into my space, acknowledge it, Now I'm ready for something more. So I think that's what I find. Amos, if I could share one more thing. When I was in New Zealand doing a workshop tour, this lady came to one of our sessions and she was from communist China. And her parents had been separated from her. Her father was sent to the mines in Western China to work, and it was at gunpoint. And her mother was taken out away from her. She was left with people she didn't know in these little villages to work in the rice paddies. And it was super distraughtful for her and at times hopeless for her. But what kept her going was that she would see her mother again. They weren't sure about her father, but she knew she would see her mother again. She knew something was going to happen. And then as she got older, she found a way to emigrate to New Zealand and get away from that. And she then prospered and she got very spiritual. And years later, she was able to actually, when China opened up a little bit, she was able to go back and see her mother and see her in this new energy of much less oppression, much less stigmas attached, much less militaristic kinds of things. And she said to me that if it hadn't been for being able to see her mother and the goodness of that one tiny thing, that she may not have even be talking to me today. So it's finding that little light that we can tap into and keep that light burning no matter what. Keep that flame lit a little bit. And then finally to Megan's point, finding that tribe of people that can help me do that is huge. Being able to get that group of people that can support that, where we can all shine our lights together, that's just giant. And then that's what that gal from China did. She found some people that she could connect with and share her heart about all that.
Thank you, Paul, for sharing that. Yeah, what a story. But what Paul just said, accepting people are coming to you for podcasts, for branding, and they are going to have some flippant emotions because they tried and it didn't work. So just taking off from what Paul said, how do you walk them through that, finding hope after they've spent time and money?
Failing. Yeah. That's a tough one. I think what I find more often than not is that people are not scared of failure. They're actually scared of success. And so many of the things that we do to ourselves subconsciously is we at different turns will sabotage our own success. Maybe we don't show up. Maybe we don't prepare for our show. Maybe we throw a cover together and like, well, whatever, it's just, I'm going to get it done. And you can always do that. But the thing that one of my coaches taught me several years ago was you can't tweak something that you don't launch. And I think so often that navigating failure through and then finding the success on the other side is going to have to make you sit in front of the mirror and go, okay, what didn't I do very well? Did I not show up properly? Did I not prepare myself? A lot of times, when you look at a podcast launch, so often people want to blame, oh, it's the cover. That's the reason. If I have a crappy cover and it sucks, then that's probably why nobody listened to it. But did you market it? Did you share it? Did you get impactful people that'll serve an audience? The thing that I love more than anything about podcasting is it's building connection. It's taking a really powerful story, a really powerful knowledge, and being able to take that message global, because social media is amazing and I'm a huge fan of it. But I've trended in almost 75 countries at this point with Resilient Heart, places I have clearly never been, and gotten speaking engagement opportunities in countries like Egypt and India in the last year. And so when you look at finding hope from a podcast, finding hope from a failure is the difference between a podcast that fails and a podcast that succeeds is what is your intention behind it? Because I think so often we go into something like, okay, I'm going to make this investment and then all this money is just going to start pouring in, and the advertisements and the clients. But I think the intention you go into something really matters. And yes, we want to make money. Yes, we want to use that as an anchor for our business. Yes, we want to do all of those things. It's important, but also I want to serve an audience. I want people to be seen. I want them to have a space to know that they're loved and cared about and that they can share their story in a safe space. I know that I've been through all these things. And so how can I take the things that I've been through and light a path for somebody else that's maybe listening, that's 3 or 4 steps behind me? What do I need to say to her? What does she need to hear from me today? And when you go into your podcast and your show with that intention, success is inevitable. It may take a little longer than you want. I am notoriously the most impatient person in the whole wide world. But when you go with that intention, it will happen, and those clients will find you, and they're going to know, it is true. The energy you bring into something matters. If people are going to be able to see that, whether it's in your voice or whether it's in your picture or your video. And that's my favorite part, is taking people that have a really powerful message and maybe feel like social media, like, man, nobody's listening. Like, I say the same thing and nobody listens. And I think I told you this when I had my first interview on Empower, where it was like, I've said the exact same thing in several spaces over the last 3 or 4 years and gotten absolute crickets. And then it's like, oh my gosh, like there's some actual traction with Empower. And I think those places, like Megan was saying about community, about the places that you're in, if you're surrounded by people that are trying to grow and elevate and move forward and find a place to help others, those are the environments you're going to thrive in. And sometimes the places that you aren't those places, and you have to move on.
Wow, thank you for what you said. It certainly hit me. You said you can't tweak what you don't launch. And it's to that whole thing of this fear of not being good enough, or I've struggled with being rejected. What if I do it and it fails? And it's like, well, how are you going to know? What if I belly flop off the high dive? Yeah, but if you don't launch, you also will never dive. So
Right.
Thank you for saying that. Bessie, where are you at right now? What's going on in your heart for when it comes to hope, as you hear what others are saying?
I think it's important to know that we learn from our failures. And instead of saying, oh, crap, what did I do? And really just bring myself down. It's like, well, wait a minute. First of all, how can I learn without doing? You gotta do it. And if it felt right in the moment to try, rather than just, for myself, thinking of myself as a failure, it's like, let's turn this around. Wait a minute. What can I learn from it to be able to, moving forward in now, how can I make it even better? What are the thoughts that are coming through for myself that maybe are not positive, not moving me forward? I always do a check-in with myself. And, I'm not perfect. No one's perfect. But I think for myself, hope is knowing that I am, first of all, I love being with Empower because it helps me to become a better person. It fuels me to know that there's others that are really wanting to be able to share their light, to be able to come together to share their light. And that's what I love about Empower. But for myself, it's looking at, I know that there's something intuitively that's important for me to share. And when I'm in space with my clients, I give them hope because, we have all gone through traumas, whether it's small T, big T. We've all gone through some sort of challenge in life. And those narratives can hold you back if you look at yourself as a victim. I like to say, wait a minute, let's be victorious. Let's come back and look at, yes, this has happened in your life, but you don't have to hold on to that narrative. That how can you shift that to the I am empowered. I am courageous. And so I have mantras that I have all over the place that remind me of who I am innately. Because whatever T traumas I've experienced or challenges in my life, I look at them and say, well, wait a minute. Like Gabi said, we're 3 to 4 steps ahead of our clients. How can I hold space for my clients to know that they're safe and that they can share whatever is in their heart without feeling guilty, without feeling shame, without feeling fear, that they can open up to knowing intuitively they have this feeling that they want to really be able to grow and flourish, but they didn't have that growing up. And so for me, it's knowing that I'm an instrument. I'm an instrument of peace to be able to give others hope that they can know that they can thrive and grow in this life. And I just want to share just one more thing. I was with my mom until her last breath. But what was beautiful about that is that I had to, being Filipino, it's hard to talk about death. It's hard to talk about even preparing for death. And so I had a conversation with her that was heart to heart. And I told her, Mom, I will be with you until your last breath. And I was with her. I gave her Reiki. I allowed her to really know that she didn't have to be afraid. And she passed away so peacefully. What gives me hope is that as a hypnotherapist, as a past life regressionist, there's more to this life after this life. And I mean, when she passed away, I felt her touch my shoulder and she said, thank you. I know that we get to come back here and say, okay, what is it that I'd like to be able to do in this life? You know, this is from Bessie's point of view. This is what I feel. But my mom gave me hope to know that I am here right now to be the best version of myself, to have that love and compassion for myself and for others. And that she really gave me hope. So she was really an epitome of, I've learned so much from her. Yeah.
Thank you, Bessie. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. So now we're going to turn to direction. Megan, once you found the hope, how did you choose your new direction? Because you've pivoted. You've pivoted more than once. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I think it is often difficult to know in the moment, is this like a new opportunity or is this a shiny object? And I've pursued a lot of shiny objects. and I have to say, I mean, there's not too many of them that I regret, because like I think it was Bessie, somebody was saying about even from mistakes, you know, you're still going to learn. There's still good things that come out of it. And if I hadn't been willing, I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't been willing to follow some shiny objects, because some of them do open up new doors. They open up new doors. So, I mean, I started working with horses, then I was working in schools and I loved teaching. And then I got into body work and I loved that. And then now I got into nutrition and I love this. So kind of each thing leads to another, but with hindsight, I can really see, and only with hindsight, how they connect and build on each other. And I couldn't really have planned that. So finding direction, I think for me, it's been being willing to take a step in a new direction is helpful for me, or at least in creating the kind of life that I have enjoyed so far. Yeah, finding that direction, I guess sometimes just taking that plunge. And again, coming back to the idea of tuning into yourself to get a sense, like, does this, I guess, in a way, coming back to the first thing I was talking about, that up energy, like if you're faced with a new opportunity and you don't know, is this my next step, or is this a distraction? You have to do some tuning in to see what kind of energy does it feel like in your body, and be willing to take a risk.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you for sharing. Paul, I want to ask you, to what Megan said, why is the breadcrumb trail that leads us home ultimately the shiny objects? Because we're tempted to put down shiny object syndrome, but that isn't that intrinsically woven into our path that leads us home to what we're supposed to be to some extent?
It's interesting for me that one person's shiny object is another person's dull penny. So what makes that happen is what is this shiny object in here shining? You know, the most shiny object that I have is this sense of my heart. You know, the remember the E.T. movie, the heart light, you know, I'll be right here, you know, that energy is here. That's what makes it shine for me, Amos, is it's that sense of there's something intriguing, there's something that feels passionate. I feel empowered when I'm feeling that I'm on that path, that even if it's the first step, there's a sense of empowerment that moves the next step forward, that takes the next step. I feel more dulled or a little bit less tuned in if it's off the path. So that feeling of what is it that I really want? What is it that I really truly need? And being really honest with that. Because if I don't say that clearly for myself and authentically to me, then there's always an ease of the distraction being able to come in and pop in there because I'm still looking for the answer, my direction outside of me. I'm still looking for someone else to give me some idea about what my direction should be. Is it right? Is it wrong? Is it this or that? So my meditation. So to take off on what Megan said, you know, I have these opportunities. So this one looks really good, and this one could also be really good. I could do both those opportunities. There's something that's there for it, and so I'm kind of trying to ask guidance. Guidance, what's in the best interest here? And every time that I'm in that mode, what comes back to me from my guides, my angels, the universe, however you want to relate to that, is Paul, what is it that you most personally just want to share? What is it that you want to say? What is it you want to feel that you want to give out? Because if you go from that point, then you'll find the outer avenue to be able to help you facilitate that. Now, I can choose this movement or I could choose this book to work on or to promote in a workshop or whatever because it resonates with what's right in here. And I feel like that's the big key of Empower Network Television is everybody's beginning to be able to share their voice. Well, just right here, some of us have alluded to that. Wow, this is great. This is the first time I've done this, or this is a unique way of doing this. So it's allowing that voice to happen so that we can follow the real most important shiny object, which is ourselves.
Thank you, Paul, for sharing that. And to take off from there, Gabi, you have a map in your heart. You got this map that you've been following. So what have you found in following that map? Where is the directions taking you? Has it surprised you where it's taken you?
Can't hear you. You're muted.
Sorry. I joked with my husband. I actually told him last night, 6 years ago, it was 7 years ago. I flew to DC I was living in New Mexico, and I was like, I knew I was in love with him. We had broken up, but we were best friends. And I was like, probably 10 years prior, I kept having these dreams, and I've always been very intuitive, but it's something that I had to step into even more so when we lost our baby. It kind of thrust me into it. But I grew up in an environment where people didn't talk about stuff like that. I grew up in a very religious environment that we don't talk to spirits and ghosts and all of those pieces. And so I kind of shunned those pieces about myself. But about 10 years before I actually met my husband, I kept having this dream standing at an altar with a man, and I never saw his face. I only saw him from the back, and I saw his hands. And I met my husband on a dating site in 2014. I pulled him up and I was like, okay, these are the parameters. This is what I'm looking for. We'll see what happens. And he was on the very first page, upper right-hand corner. And I was like, that's my husband. And I've never had that feeling. I've never thought that. So I'm like, okay, we're going to shoot my shot. And I sent him a message. And when he flew out like 2 weeks later to actually hang out with me, where I picked him up from the airport and he reached over to hold my hand in the car, and he had in my dream, the scar that I had seen for the last 10 years on his hand. I'm like, I'm about to flip this truck. Like, I was literally like, what the hell is going on? But it wasn't easy. This wasn't, we've both had to unpack all of the pieces of who we are, all of the traumas that we, brought into our marriage, brought into our relationship, things that we had been through, relationships that failed, our own mistakes, our own failures. But I think direction for me is, one, really, really owning my stuff, really looking at like, why are you like this? What is wrong with you? What you need to work on this, and being really honest about that, because it's really great to be like, oh my God, these are things that I'm amazing at. But like, we also got to look at this, at the shadow too. And I think direction requires us to do both of those things. And if we don't, at some point we're gonna crash and burn, because we haven't addressed those pieces, to put them down, to heal from them, to shed them, so that we can step into those things. And nothing that I get to do now would have ever been possible had I not done work with people like Tisha, with going to therapy, with doing Reiki and hypnosis and all these different healing modalities. And I feel like so often everybody wants success. Like, who wants to start a business and watch it crumble and fall and have, embarrass themselves publicly in front of their loved ones? Nobody wants that. But the work that we forget that we need to do has to do with everything that goes from inside of us, because we are what shows up in our business. We are what shows up in our life. And if we don't deal with those pieces, that direction is going to be like this all the time. We're just going to be, I do think you get, for me, I have the worst ADD in the whole wide world. And my husband's always like, okay, I need you to like, and I get mad because I'm like, what about this? And what about this? And what about this? Because I have all these ideas, but sometimes those stages take time. So like, okay, these are the things we're doing right now. Okay, what's the next step? Okay, this is the next step. And like Paul was saying, like, okay, well, let's look at the facts of these pieces, and then we're going to take the next step so that we can do this thing. Okay, we've mastered this. We've launched this successfully. This is doing what it's doing. Now let's look at what the next step is. And I think too often we get so excited that we end up like Dory, and we're looking in every direction trying to find what we're supposed to do. We really just need to look at what the next step is. And for me, that's direction, because I literally have on the wall in my office some next step pieces that I want to launch. I would love to do it next year, but these are like 2 and 3 years out, and I just have to like see it because it makes me excited, but also no, Gab, it's not time for that. And I think if we are really honest with ourselves about the capacity that we have, so that we can show up in the space that we're in and the thing that we're doing and give it our whole freaking heart, then those other pieces are going to start falling into place. We're going to have to trust ourselves, trust the environments that we're in, trust the people that we've hired around us and the people that we have in our lives, because those directions will really reveal themselves once we do that work and we give ourselves that opportunity.
Wow. Thank you so much, Gabi. Bessie, to what Gabi just said, I wanted to ask you about this paradox thing where it's like, in one hand, life is everything, anything you want, Bessie, and yet to be good at anything, you have to focus like on 1 or 2 things, even to have other things your heart wants open up to you, as Gabi was saying. What have you experienced in that, like coming back to the one thing? What is the one thing for you, that direction that you, because I'm sure you want lots of things. Don't you have hopes and dreams, but isn't your heart bringing you back to one thing?
Absolutely. My one thing is joy. How can we bring more joy into our life? And joy and passion. And so I made a last minute decision to go to San Francisco last week to see my family. I wasn't going to do it. And I'm going, oh, I have to do my work. I have things to do. But the download was, Bessie, you need to go. You need to go. I went there, and I went to before the little reunion with my family, I went to a concert at Stern Grove. 10,000 people were there. And I got up, I danced, I had a good time. My whole body was feeling so much joy. I didn't care what I looked like when I was dancing. And I'm going, wow, this feels so good. I was, and that joy that I felt like a, you know, a hippie, just kind of like doing my thing. But that part of me of feeling that joy was like, oh, I love this. I want to do more of this. I want to make sure that every day I find joy in whatever that is. Joy in planting in my garden, joy in, you know, having a laugh with my husband, joy with my work. What can I spark? We all have this magnificence within us. We all have this beautiful light within us. But if you're like not focused, then it's like you're going to be distracted on the next shiny object. For me, it's coming into that joy within myself. And when, like I said, when I first, before I came on, I tuned in to who I am on a energetic soul level. And because, you know, there was a lot of nervousness coming on here. I just have to admit, I was very nervous. But once I tuned in and focused and said, okay, you're doing this because of your why. And my why is helping others to spark that joy with themselves and within me. I grounded myself, I tuned in, and I really felt in my heart that light within me, that joy within me, that helped me to just kind of like hone in. Okay, here I am. I'm not like scattered all over the place. Here I am focused right now to be here. And so for my work, rather than being so serious all the time, it's like I keep on thinking how I was dancing like a hippie, you know, in front of, around other people who were dancing too. And I thought, this is what it's supposed to be. Just really bring that joy back in, and however I can do that. So the next day when I had the reunion with my family, I was laughing and having a good time. And it was just so beautiful to have followed my intuition to say, just never mind, take some time and just and do what's important. And it was like so reviving for me to remind myself. So yeah, bringing the joy back into the magnificence of who we are and remembering that, I think, is really important.
Thank you. Thank you, Bessie. That's beautiful. What a reminder. Megan, where are you at? What's going on for you right now? How's this landing?
Well, I'm definitely inspired by Bessie's expression of joy. I've had the good fortune to have talked with her a number of times now. She's the person who introduced me to Empower TV. So yeah, very inspiring, Bessie. And it makes me think then of, well, what is it for me? And of course, you know, I love joy, but I think for me, along with the, you know, direction, and I suppose maybe the hope too. I think for me, what I keep coming back to is the process of growth. And I guess I find a lot of joy in that, but even if it's not always feeling joyful, I find it very satisfying to be, when I get a chance to be in a process of growth. And like your video to us this morning about appreciating even the times when you feel unfulfilled or you don't feel the joy, but being able to enjoy those times too, and just recognize that it's a process. I often, you know, visualize this like we take a step in a new direction or the same direction, another step, and there's this process of this spiral. You know, we find things, we learn new things, we connect with new people, and we come around full circle, but we're not in the same spot we were. We kind of came around in a circle, but we're a little bit maybe higher up, or sometimes maybe lower down. I don't know. But each time it's like that destination, and yeah, you get there for a moment. This is what reminds me of what you sent us in a video this morning. You get that fleeting elation of having accomplished something, learned something, discovered something, produced something, but then it's fleeting and you start on another circular path. And I think it's important for myself, and I try to help my clients see it this way too, to just really enjoy the process of it. And even in the world of nutrition and metabolic health, you know, there's never like one destination that you're going to get there and then you're just going to know exactly what to eat and how to exercise and do the same thing every day and you've arrived and it's over. No, it's not over. It's not as long as we're alive anyway. There's going to be some evolution, and to be okay with that and be comfortable with the process and enjoy the journey, I guess, is that old saying. That's where I'm at right now, I guess.
Thank you for sharing, Megan. Paul, I wanted to ask you, how have you learned to embrace the evolution, knowing, because as you track back, working with yourself, your clients, as you track back, you can see, I'm sure there's themes, there's patterns. So how have you learned to let go of the fact that you're never going to arrive, or however the terminology you use? What does that look like, letting go of that?
Well, as you asked that, Amos, the first thought that came to me is that I have never not arrived. I'm always there. Wherever what's that old crazy cliche? Wherever you go, there you are. You know that. Yeah, I have arrived, and it's that carrot and the stick syndrome that so many people have. You know that in order to, as Gabby so greatly said, in order to be successful, I have to have done this, this, and this. That's the measure of success, and that is I'll dumb it down a little. That's a BS barometer. You know, the outer telling me whether I'm successful or not. You saying to me, Paul, you're successful or not successful. You know, that's a fool's errand to me to look at it from that point of view of the outer. So just like this morning when you were doing that interview and here you are in the middle of your workout, Amos, you know, and your head's down and you could tell that you've been doing stuff and you're talking to us about fulfillment or unfulfillment and so on. You are there in the moment. And I think that that's the key element, is that there is no feeling guilty about the past is a waste of time, because the past is the past. I can't change the past. What I can do, as many of us, as several of us have said here, I can learn from it. I can grow from that. I can improve on it the next time because now I have that experience. So I know how maybe not to do it quite as much. So I can move forward in this way. It's also a waste of time to worry about the future. If I'm living out there in the future, I'm personally not going to be able to take the next step because I'm so worried about what's going on out there. I miss the signals that are right here in front of me. You know, so many of us talked about intuition today and so on. The thing that I find that for my clients and for me personally is to continually acknowledge, build upon, upgrade my resources. You know, I have incredible resources. I've got my own intuitions and instincts. I've got that energy of that aura of things that is constantly scanning, and that radar system that can help me to gauge whether this is the right thing or not quite the way that I want to go. I've got the universe or God or guidance, again, however you say that, that can help me to navigate through the obstacle courses. For me, my guides or angels have a much bigger picture. They can see the detours, you know, in the cities where I'm down in the thick of the trees and I can't see that. So all of the resources that we have, each other, you know, to be able to connect with and work with. Those are things, techniques that we show our clients and so on, so they can find their own answers to things and not just rely on me to be their answer person or their guru. I'm a great believer that I'm my own best guru. I have my own best answer. I'm my own best psychic. You know, I'm my own best intuitive. I'm my own best healer. You know, it's great to go get a healing, but what do you do between the appointments to maintain it, to build it? So it's that mining those resources inside Amos, I think, that really impassions me to move forward. And to Bessie's point, what's again been floating my boat lately is just the pure beingness. It's not the do that's important. It's the being. What am I feeling like as I'm doing this? Is this joyful? Is this happy for me that I'm out here mowing the lawn in my big zero turn kick butt mower? Or is it just a drudgery? Am I feeling like I have to do this? That passion for that moment, that present moment, I think is what is going to be a key for all of us in Empower to help people find that being here today, being here now, being present now. That was a
Wow.
good spiel. I'm not
Wow.
sure where that went, but that's what came out of my mouth.
No, it's really good, Paul. Thank you. Gabby, I'm watching you nod your head. So you're where are you at with this?
So I don't know. I am like quite possibly Maya Angelou's biggest fan of all time. And there was a quote from one of her quotes, but I read it again in a Brene Brown book, who I'm also a huge fan of. And the quote is, "You are only free when you realize you belong no place. You belong every place and no place at all. The price is high, but the reward is great." And the thing that I think when it comes to every aspect of the work that I get to do and evolution is understanding that who I was at one point in my life is not who I am now. And I having the peace and the confidence to be like, I belong wherever I decide I belong, and I don't go where I don't think I should be. And I think when you think about evolution, and especially when you think about growing a business, it's so easy to take every opportunity. It's so easy to take every client. It's like, you know, we want that revenue coming in, we want our face in more places. But I feel like the piece of being like, no, I'm only going to go a couple of places. And at some point that's going to grow bigger. But having the piece about knowing that what I know I'm meant to do, who I know I'm meant to touch, and being really, like everybody has said today, is that intuition of knowing yourself really well, to know where you do and don't belong, and what that evolution will look like, is really rooted in knowing yourself even more, because then you don't get as many shiny objects. You still have moments of it. But I think that's kind of where I'm at least for right now.
Thank you. Thank you, Gabby. Bessie, as we're gonna start closing here shortly, but there's a lot going on. I can see. I'm watching your eyes. Where are you at?
Oh, I'm inspired by you all. I'm inspired by you, Amos, for really having this academy. It's just an Empower Network. It's just mind blowing to me. The whole shiny object thing. I mean, we want to be able to really tune into what will. First of all, you have to take risk in life. Risks. It's important, because if you don't take that risk, you don't know. But to try to reach for everything, I think is that syndrome has been for myself like, okay, wait a minute. And I love what Paul said. And this is something that's really important for me to know, that I am not healing someone. I am not their guru, like what you had said, Paul, because then it's going to be the same thing. They're going to reach out for someone else to help them. I want to be able to help empower others. That's so important. And that just when Paul, and I think Gabby, you had mentioned that isn't really who I am. I want to really be able to help others empower themselves. And that's the journey that I've been on for, many of my years. But this last, it's interesting because I had pneumonia like 2 months ago. Never had pneumonia. But it was like, I wasn't even in my body anymore. It just felt like, wow, what is happening? But I asked Spirit, I asked my guides, I know there's a gift in this. I'd really like to be able to understand what is it that the message that I need to hear. And when I was a little bit more lucid, what was said to me in my spirit ears, remember who you are. Remember who you are. And so I will never forget those words, because that reminds me of my own magnificence, my own light. And so that has driven me to just continue to move on, to come back to that for myself, and be able to help remember that I'm helping others to remember who they are. I'm helping them to empower themselves.
Powerful. Thank you, Bessie. Megan, closing remarks, please.
Yeah, well, again, inspired by Bessie. Yeah, remembering who you are. I think for me, two of the things that help me do that, and in turn that helps me tune into what is my direction, and not do the Dory thing. I love Gabby's reference to Dory the fish. I love. If anybody hasn't seen Finding Nemo, you got to watch it. Yeah, what helps me, two things are, well, nature. Basically, I was going to also say movement, but primarily nature. I'm thinking, I do love to go for walks, especially in the woods. And connecting with the earth, it's also a big part of the horse thing, animals generally. Just, I think it brings us back into who we are, the more we can connect with nature. And, I never even thought of this before, but when I help people with nutritional therapy, and it's all about coming back to real foods, I think that's one of the benefits, not just the nutrition and the lack of the garbage, but when we're eating real foods, that's another way of connecting with the earth. But yeah, I would encourage people to use any kind of, it could be a grounding practice, it could be going for a walk in the woods, moving your body again plays into this, but finding a way to connect with the earth, with nature, with animals. I think the more we do that, the more we can be with ourselves and come back to who we are.
Thank you, Megan. Paul, closing remarks?
I want to continue the theme that Megan shared here, and that's the presence to just be more relaxed and to just trust myself and what it is that I know that I need to do for me. I guess my closing remarks, the last few months I've lost 20 pounds. And the main reason for being able to do that is because I did more of the practices of setting my intention in the morning, like Bessie was talking about, doing more deep breathing, doing more relaxation, because all of the outer eating and this and the habits of all that really had to do with I was just not relaxed enough. And here I am instructing relaxation techniques, right? So for me to take it deeper, to go more deeply, and at the very beginning of me signing up for Empower Network TV and the Academy, I had mentioned to Adriana that this reminded me of an old song from decades ago. It was in a musical. It's called Stout Hearted Men. And we adapted it for one of our retreats. And one of the lines goes, "Start me with 10 who will look deep within, and I'll soon give you 10 million more." And that's what inspires me, is people who do want to take a look. They're stepping out of their traditions. They're one step out. They're testing the waters. They're trying it. They're soul searching. There's an inner compulsion, and so I just feel like, in closing, Amos, there's so much need for what we're doing. There's that just right now, five of us are generating energy out. The people that are listening to this may help them have a little bit better day, and they pay that forward, to their children, to their family, to their coworkers. So just this conversation is powerful and important to me, because it means that without even knowing it, I'm touching people. And there's so much need for that. And there's going to be a greater, Amos, you and I were talking yesterday about what's happening out there in the future. So there's going to be so much need for all this. So for me to be present in myself, to follow my heart and what it is that I feel is important to me, and then to give it out. Bring the inflow in and then let it pass right back out to assist somebody else. That's what stands out for me, hope and direction today, Amos.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for sharing. Gabi, please, closing remarks.
Closing remarks. I think I just want whoever's listening to remember that who you are, what you've been through, the story that you've overcome, and the path that you're on. Somebody is waiting for that. Somebody is waiting for you. They're waiting for your voice. They're waiting for your message, and they're waiting for your work. And whatever you have to do to get over the things that scare you or cause you to think that you don't belong there, please, please, please do that. And whoever it is within Empower or in your current environment that can help you get out of that headspace so you can step into that power, that's what the world needs. And I love being surrounded by so many people that are doing that work, because I think sometimes we look around and we feel like everybody is waiting for the exterior pieces to show people what success looks like, what joy looks like, what peace looks like. And I think being surrounded by men and women that get that it's so much deeper than all of those exterior pieces, it's just a really fun place to be in. I'm really excited to see what we're all doing in the next months and years together, because I do think the more people, like the quote that Paul shared, the more that we light our own path, the more that we're most authentic selves, the more that we can show up in the world and show exactly who we are and be unapologetic and kind. Like, that ripple effect is beautiful, and getting to experience that and be part of that is just so much fun.
Thank you, Gabi. Bessie, please, closing remarks.
Well, first of all, today, put on some music and dance. Bring the joy back into your life, and just have some fun. Have some fun. I think it's so important to really, you're grounding your body when you do that, you know? And so if you don't like to dance, that's okay. You can, exercise, walk, whatever, listen to some music, but bring that joy back into your life and know that, first of all, you matter. You matter. And no man is an island, or woman is an island. We need one another. And, I was not allowed to speak up growing up in my family. And look at me now, Lordy, look at what I'm doing. If you're afraid to be visible, but you're inspired because you have some gifts that you want to be able to share, get that support. Get that support to know that you matter. Your gifts are important. And if it is that you have some niggly wigglies in your mind that are holding you back, know that we can all be a model for you to know that you can do this. And so I just want to say, really get out there and get that support, or even just go do something that brings you joy, and don't even think about that you're going to be judged. Just do it. Just do it. It's so important.
Thank you, Bessie. Thanks everyone for participating. Megan, this is a real treat having you here, and really appreciated your thoughts and your energy. And Paul, what a joy this is the first one that you've been on.
Yeah. Thank you, Amos. Thanks for the opportunity.
The blast. And Gabi, also your first one. Megan's for you. Bessie, everyone's first one. Gabi, really enjoyed what you brought, and Bessie as well. This is just, you guys are all just amazing.
We've got another one coming up, right, Amos?
Yeah, there's a double feature today. So in 20 minutes. So if you've been watching Empower Network TV or listening, there's a bunch of comments. I'm going to tag the 4 of you in this as soon as this posts, and please go and visit those comments. Please reach out to anyone that was on this and let them know what you appreciated. Feel free to connect with them, obviously. And thanks for helping make this Sunday a very special Sunday for me as well.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Bye, everyone.